morning. Welcome back to that Gen X Friend podcast. And before I begin, as usual, I know I say this every time, but I can't help it. Thank you. Give a shout out to MB Radio, and thank you for this platform. Very, very grateful indeed. So let's get to it. It is summer. Weather is getting beautiful. Depending on where you are, sometimes it could be a little crazy, but that's okay. You would think that this is everybody hopes for this time, right? Maybe not those who love snow, but I see on social media like, man, it's too hot, and in winter it's too cold. But those people tend to wish for days like these where you can go outside, you can enjoy the weather, gather with friends, sit by the fire pit, whatever, have a barbecue, and not to discount all of that, the ability to do that. But what I've noticed is it's on social media all across the board. I don't see the sharing of gatherings as much. It's more inundated with upheaval, division from one group to the next, from here to there, it doesn't matter, all around the world, here in the United States, in your state, in your local area, it doesn't matter. It goes from the if you think about nations, huge, right, in concept, but also down to your local, maybe potentially even your family, depending on the group that we have selected for ourselves. It's not unnatural, like sort of competition, like for the World Cup just came about, right? What happened not too long ago. Maybe it's still going. I don't really watch it. I don't watch sports as much as I used to. But yeah, you got teams from all over the globe. They're competing with each other. Of course, there are fans for each team. So in a sense, that's in group, right? And the fans of whatever team is loyal to theirs, and they will support them. If you're like a loyal fan, I'm not talking about, the fans as the wind blows, like, oh, you guys are horrible, I'm leaving the team, I don't care about you guys. But talking about the real loyal ones that will stick with you through good and bad. And when it's healthy like that, it's good. It promotes competition, growth, and you challenge each other to be better, because everybody wants that to win, right? To compete on a different level. But I can't help but notice, I don't know if it's just me, I don't believe so, because I talk to people who feel the same way I do, from different perspectives, let's just say. We can call them, what I wrote in the description is the in-group, right? So from different in-groups, which I do not belong to, because I really don't belong to any group per se. But on perspective-wise, I may think differently than the other people I'm talking to, but it just seems more and more that the divisiveness of the world that we live in today, the divided nature, is like drawing a line. If you don't agree with me completely on this, that, or the other, and the third, then you're out. And I am, by loyal decree, not royal, but loyal, from the loyalty that I feel for certain group or whatever that I feel I belong to, or whoever they feel they belong to. Now we see each other and also behave towards each other as not healthy opponents, but rather mortal enemies, that destruction will be brought about upon you or whoever, um, just because of disagreements. And we don't have to take it because it's sort of abstract. I know anybody can picture an example in their heads, but let's just take it down to the family level, right? Nobody that I know that I've ever known have ever experienced relationship in which they did not at some point, at one point or another, disagree with the person who they're having a relationship. It doesn't matter. It could be parents, children, friends, whatever, co-workers that they disagree with so strongly that it just seemed like they could not find a common ground. And that is also possible, right? But once that sort of initial event happens and a disagreement, opposing thought was found, discovered, and the event ends rather badly. So both sides retreat to their own corners like boxers in a fight, right? And human nature is to go and find comfort in others who support us. Like with boxers, you got your coach, you got people wiping off your brow, maybe you got punched in the face and now you're bleeding all over the place. Yeah, we don't continue to seek like the individual who pummeled us or made us feel that way. So it's human nature. It doesn't have to be in a boxing fight, but it's human nature to retreat back into a place of comfort, to gather our thoughts, to maybe get encouragement from those we have common ground with, we have the same beliefs. But it is unlike a boxing match where there are obvious little you can retreat, but you still have to come back to the match until it's finished, right? In everyday life, there's no, sorry, my fur baby was reacting to the cars outside. But in everyday life, there's no ring, there's no official saying you must re-engage, you must re-enter this arena and fight it out, duke it out. There will be a ending because this is what's happening. So in life, when we tend to retreat back into our corners, I've done it. I'm sure you can. I'm sure you've done it too. We don't want to come out. We don't. I'm like, oh, I'm so sick of it. If I hear another thing, I know what they think. I get it, right? And we tend to basically think that we know what the other is thinking in totality. I mean, in everything. I know exactly what they think. I know exactly what they're going to do, which is impossible because even with ourselves, we do not know what exactly we're going to do because, I mean, and we are in our own bodies, in our own minds, right? Sometimes I surprise myself. I'm like, what? Which is often, I've shared that quite often. Maybe it's me. But it is so much easier to retreat and get into this echo chamber because we want to find comfort. We want somebody to comfort us and be like, no, 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 it's okay. I think the same way. I would have done this, that, and the other. And in the moment, it helps us regain our balance because for whatever reason, this encounter, this event that kind of blew up in our faces, made us feel awful, made us feel insecure. You can name a number of negative feelings, not negative, that made us feel some sort of way that was not positive, was not beneficial. So we go, we talk, and then, man, it's so comforting. It's like that warm, fuzzy blanket in the winter, nice cup of hot chocolate. You're sitting by the fire, you're watching your favorite movie, and you just don't want to leave because everything is feeding into this. What you did was, I agree with, and it's okay. But then when we remain in that comfort and do not re-engage again, I've done it. The divide grows and grows and grows because I am positive that the other is most likely doing the same thing as I am. When we both retreated, we're both seeking, right? That's human nature. It's just not. There's a point of benefit, right? If you don't retreat, you're just constantly going at it. That's not good either, right? Cooler heads will prevail. So it's good to take a break. But re-engagement, like the boxing match, I believe has to be done, right? And that's where my title suggests is that, you know, the most important person, individual, people that we need to talk to, especially during divisive times, such as the one that we live in right now, is the person that perhaps pummeled us, perhaps we see as opponents, perhaps we have completely dismissed as like, oh, I know exactly what they're going to do. So there's no point for me to re-engage, for us to re-engage, to do anything. As counterintuitive as it may be, it is because I've had to, I keep saying as I get older, it seems like, yes, there's some good to aging. I'm not talking about the pain and crazy stuff. Like, lessons that were shared with me before now makes a lot more sense. That the most important person, people, group, or whatever we have to speak to, especially in times that we do not want to, when the divide seems so clear. How can you not see this way? It's black and white. Most things in life are on the gradient, like the continuum of gray, just right, with black and white on either side. The most important part is to fight that tendency to continue to divide because we're like, for whatever reason, because maybe because we're prideful, because we got hurt, is to reach out and talk to whomever that we had the differences with. First, I'm not saying that the other side feels the same way, right? They might not even want to re-engage for whatever reason. But if there's a possibility, first and foremost, there is, I believe there's a benefit, as much as I didn't want to believe in it before, but it's true. Maybe the idea of peace is out of the question. It doesn't happen. However, speaking to the other side, you will find out things that you don't know about. How would you know? You don't know what you don't know. I don't know what I don't know. And we are constantly, as humans, we are thinking regardless of how entrenched they are, they fluctuate. They, different information, they might have gotten more information. We might have gotten information. It never remains stagnant within the time of the event that happened, right? That was a time capsule. A lot of things could have happened 5 minutes past the event, 10 minutes, a day, 10 days, months, a year. So just from a pure, like, okay, curiosity, I want to, not because we're trying to quell the situation, but I want to know what they know. Just from that, the curiosity, like, why? I don't get it. Is there information I don't know? Information gathering. It is worth it to re-engage if the other party, group, whatever, will allow it, right? And while it's hard to not have to predetermine, oh, I already know what they're going to say, to have an open mind, we might find nuggets of gold when we do come back and re-engage again. But that's just the basics. Like, oh, there may be something to be gained. I'm not saying you're trying to gain the upper hand, perhaps, right? Depending with the situation. If you read Art of War, there's all kinds of, if you know your enemy and know yourself, you're not going to be afraid of any sort of battle because right? How do you get to know your enemy? We're not saying that everybody who opposes you is your enemy. They just can have a different idea. Who knows? But how do you get to know anybody who thinks differently from us, from you, from me? Is to get to know them. And it's hard when the first, whatever the inciting event has been challenging because either me or you got hurt or they got hurt or whatever. But nonetheless, we don't know what we don't know. And from not like a kumbaya scale, right? But from a larger scale, maybe more abstract, you're like, oh, God, that's never gonna happen, kind of thing. Like, only in your wish, like only in your dreams, if wishes do come true, kind of thing. If our intent is to have peace, is to grow peace, is to grow unity, to reach out, because we are sending out an olive branch to settle the differences, to find a acceptable peace. I'm not saying like, I believe there's only one place that's that peaceful, which is heaven. However, we don't live there right now. And how we get there, it's based on our behavior, correct? How we follow God. But beyond that, if there's a possible way to find an acceptable level of unity, of peace, a livable one, in which we still have to work at when, we hit speed bumps and maybe there's a pothole, we may still have to work at. If there's an acceptable level of peace that could be found, like sowing the seeds of peace and unity, I really believe that the only way, perhaps not the only way, but a way to nurture the potential of peace and unity is to sit down and speak with whomever, whatever group, whatever person, that there's a difference, there's a divide. Potentially, there may not be a sort of the achievable, like we all live in the same ecosystem. We can, live together However, if there's separate ecosystems that can be exist in parallel, that are still functioning on their own but not violating and not trying to destroy the other, that's that's okay. But how do we even get to that place without sitting down and talking? As long as it might take. I am not one of those like magical thinking places that we just sit down. And obviously world history has shown us that human nature is quite combative. And how many wars, how many world ending events, that just the destruction of vast amounts of humanity has happened because of disagreements, because of various things, right? I don't have magical thinking in that way, but I do believe potentially this is one thing that we cannot take off the table, because once we stop talking to each other, there's no chance for sowing the seeds of anything that will be beneficial to anybody, except for the echo chamber that we belong to within our own comfort zone, right? And eventually, regardless of intent, if we remain in our echo chambers, the extremes that is bred within that vacuum, the echo chamber, will look so similar, even if you're opposing other one. If you can find out the destruction of feeling like the only way we can do anything is the destruction of the other, that we all end up in the same place anyways, and it's not any place good. I don't say this to preach, because I just had this conversation with my son. Because regardless, when people watch things on TV, on social media, regardless of group or perspective you come from, there's a level of anger that is brewing. I can feel it. I can feel it from people who are walking about. Just the tension is so thick in the air sometimes. You can cut it with a knife. And it's unbearable sometimes. I say I'm an inside cat, I was a poke before. I guess I'm comfortable staying inside. It has never been more so than in recent times, that all I want to do is stay inside. Not that I don't want, this is why I brought up beautiful weather. Yesterday was beautiful. It was crisp. The sky was so blue, and the air wasn't thick with humidity. I didn't feel like I was going to melt. And all I wanted to do was to run my errands and come back inside and close the doors, because going outside has become sort of like, is it because there's tension out there, or am I carrying tension out there and then feeling it because there's tension out there? It just felt, I was talking to my son about it. I'm like, yeah, watching this stuff go down really, really sometimes causes such a level of discomfort, let's just say, that, man, it's so easy to get stuck in there. It is so easy. But I don't want to be that person. I don't want to be that person, because it is a slippery slope. Because I've sat, let's just talk about like the arena, the boxing matches, right? I felt like I've been trapped in a boxing match sometimes, where all I wanted was to retreat back to my corner and never re-engage again. Not because there was an official making me go back there, but it felt like I was getting pummeled and I'm done, right? I'm shooting daggers at this, whatever, it could be person, whatever situation. And man, it was like, I hate to use this reference, but I'm gonna, because I'm Gen X. You know how Anakin basically let the dark side take over, and to a degree, you know, it's not that feeling angry or discomfort is wrong. Is that when we remain in, when we seek to grow it from a place of comfort, from people, from places, from ideas that eat it, we can be so entrenched that we become Darth Vader in a way, right? And as much as I love Star Wars, I mean, it's a great movie. All of them. Well, okay, maybe not all of them. I digress. But it teaches a lesson, right? You can't let the dark side take over, because then it will all be dark. There has to be some sort of tempering of this, so we don't retreat and let it consume us. I want to sit down, not because it's easy, because just from being a parent, okay, we can say that I've had conversations with my son as he grew up. Man, he has been one of the most frustrating, confounding opponents, okay, I've ever had. But it was because in the ring that we had, I had to re-engage. Well, I could have disengaged, but then, you know, I would be a failure in my understanding as a mother. But I had to re-engage. I had to, as challenging as it may have been, and it was, and it took a long time, and it still happens. But nonetheless, I feel the need, because something, I cannot disengage from this person, right? Because he's my son. There's a need, there's parameters that's like, oh, dude, you need to re-engage, you need to re-engage, right? That is the, I think most people accept that, having that sort of parameter on certain relationships in our lives. However, with society wise, oftentimes there's no parameters. We can choose to be on one side or the other or whatever. And there's nobody saying, hey man, this is not okay, beyond God. But we're all willful in our own ways. We don't have to, right? That's free choice. It's our own free will. And we don't have to re-engage ever if we didn't want to. So, and that never ends well, as demonstrated by history. I don't say this because I think I have some novel idea, because there's plenty of people who share this idea. It's just that, and I'm not saying go out there. I don't know what to do, but I am in the thought of that I don't know what to do. I know what I want to do. I don't know what will work for you. I am in the thought is that I'm willing to talk to anybody respectfully, right? Even if it gets heated, like a heated argument or just a discussion. It doesn't have to be an argument, but I'm willing to listen at to the point it causes great discomfort, because at least there's a potential to give the seed of unity or peace the nurture it needs to grow. If I won't even try and say, it's dead, there's no point even planting the seed, something else will grow. It will be a desert. There will be nothing. it will be not. I don't know if anybody's watched the Never Ending Story. It's the nothing, right? That continues to grow. And I fear that because I do have it, because of my son, because of his children, because of his children's children, and because of the good of humanity. I mean, all I want to do, man, if I can snap my fingers and everybody singing Kumbaya, that'd be great. I am not that person. But I don't see why it would hurt to try. I'm not saying put ourselves in dangerous situations or, when it's appropriate, retreat, right? Like, dude, I'm getting pummeled. I'm about to go in a coma. I'm going to withdraw, maybe come back another day, right? We're not trying to win the war today. It's not a war, but in a sense, we're not trying to win anything today because it's not an opposing side sort of thing. But to even lessen it, even like lessen the divide by an unnoticeable amount to maybe to our perception, to our eyes, is better than adding to it. Because I agree with a lot of things that's happening, and I disagree with a lot of things that are happening. It doesn't matter what my views are. The matter is that the things I agree with, people don't. The things I disagree with, people don't agree with me. Or, So regardless of where you sit and what you think, there are people out there who disagree. And it may feel good to, to express ourselves and feel righteous in expressing ourselves with logic. Because there's a lot of people that go out there and express a lot of things. You're like, I don't see the logic. Even if I disagree with you, you can present some sort of good argument. Cool. I see where you're coming from. There's a lot of people who cannot do that, where perhaps the best way is to find an individual from their group that can express themselves logically and find common ground, or, decrease the divide. Is it even possible? A little bit. And it's hard. I was talking to my son. I'm like, yeah, no, it's hard. And I feel the pull, and it sometimes feels so good to be angry, to say these things, because I feel like I'm in the right? I'm on the right side, whatever side that may be. But man, I feel the darkness in that, because what's going on in my head and what's being expressed, because we keep a lot of things in our minds, right? Most of us have an ability to not express, like, the common strips with the thought bubbles. Thank God for that, people. So it's good that we can do that. But man, let's just say the darkness, the negativity that's brewing in my head. That's what actually scares me, because I don't want to go there. Most of us, I truly believe, regardless of whatever group you belong to, have suffered some sort of whatever situation where we're like, man, why can't these people, or why can't this person, or whatever, is so unfair? Why can't they just be kind? And that's where I sit today, because I don't want to have that negativity in my head. I'm not saying that I've achieved it. I'm just aware of it. And now when I feel so angry, it almost justifies. I'm like, how could I not feel this way? How could I not think this way? I have enough awareness. I'm like, oh, dude, yeah, no, there is such thing as right and wrong, and it's okay to get angry, but to add poison on top of it, poison in your own mind, my own mind, is not helping. It doesn't justify it, right? You're like, oh, well, this, that, and the other. How can I not? Well, no. Facts are facts. or whatever happiness, whatever happening. We do not need to add the, like on ice cream, let's make it extra better. Let's add the sprinkles and the caramel. We're pouring whatever extra we're thinking is the sprinkles and the caramel and the peanuts and whatever you want at the whipped cream on top of this ice cream that we want to consume because it's making us feel better, making me feel better. And it's dangerous because it's an overconsumption. I have no answer for it, like usual. It's just my observation of the times that we live in, and I feel so heartbroken about it. Because without that, if you're just having, back in the day where you never talked about religion, politics, or relationships, I think if we kept all that out of conversations, inflammatory conversations, sometimes people want to bring these things up to talk about, right? I think most of us would be like, oh, they're just like me. Minor differences, some big differences, but nothing to the point where we are either, oh, they're in our group or out of our group, and then we want to destroy these people, or the only way we can all function is this, that, and the other, to the extremes. But obviously that's not possible. And I don't think we should live in a sort of like a protective bubble, like we could only talk about these things and nothing else. I don't have the answer. I can only say that I have tried. I've let people know I don't think we're going to agree because I feel differently, and I try to explain myself from my point of view, not from a combative place, right? But I'm like, this is what I think. I don't think but what I found is that by doing that, and it's only been recently because I like I said, I don't really go outside. I don't go outside. I'm an indoors person. I'm not a free range chicken like that. Yes, free range, but it's in a big old dome. For those who have listened to a podcast before, I refer to myself as a free range chicken. Anyways, so like recently, anytime I've said, well, yeah, I can, when the subject got brought up post meeting somebody or talking to somebody, they're like, oh, that's awesome, and we're having fun, and they bring up something that I disagree with. I'm like, I don't think, I don't think you're going to agree with me or even like what I think. I found that putting that out there was almost like a mitigator. It lessened the blow so much in me expressing the way that I feel, because I didn't come off as being hostile, nor our previous interactions were very lighthearted. And so it became more palatable, digestible for the person. I'm not saying these situations will always come up, but perhaps like being truthful appropriately. I'm not saying like I'm just gonna go out there and tell everybody, because you have to be concerned about your own safety. It is just the way it is right now. But when appropriate, if things get brought up and you're like, you may not like me after I share, and you may not like my opinion, but but that's cool. I think it's okay. Let's just both express our ideas, thoughts, and whatever, and have an exchange. I found that sort of opening actually created a space to have conversations where it's like wearing the jersey, right, of whatever team, and you are already definitively standing on the other side of this whatever group, person, individual, doesn't matter. But you go as you are without any declaration. It's not like you're compromising your ideas or whatever you think, but to engage people on a human to human level, and just lightheartedly, because we do have more in common than we do not. And then let that door open conversations, right? To speak to the most important person, group, whatever, during divisive times as these. I believe that could be potentially a spark that will allow, if we try to plant the seeds of peace and unity, that potential could be there, right? I'm not saying that, because anytime you plant something, some of them will die, that some of them will not grow. That's just the statistics of it. So it's not an answer. It's just, I sort of process as I live life in this society during our times, as in saying, can we be better ourselves, even if we think the other, whatever group, person that we do not agree with cannot be better? Wouldn't it be better that we're not thinking all these hateful thoughts, or the darkness, the nothing, sort of let it chew us up? It's not worth it. Because when I think like that, man, I have migraines, and let me tell you that is a force multiplier. I just want to shut the whole world out and just never get up from my bed again in the dark. And when I try to modify it, there seems like there's hope to get up for. I don't know. I honestly don't know. I don't have the answers, or else, or else there will be a completely different person sitting in front of you, I guess. I don't know. What do you guys think? Can we do better? Can we try more? Can we engage people on a human to human level first, before putting on our, various jerseys that says what we're from, what we need to do, who team we will belong to? But it's just look into each other's eyes and hear the humanity within all of us before engaging. I don't know. I honestly don't know. But I'm gonna try. What an interesting time we live in. This is not so much as this is just me as a Gen X watching the world and commenting on it, being the observer, being the the reporter inside the chaos, reporting the best that I can without bias. I don't know. Regardless, next time you disagree with somebody, or I disagree with somebody, I'm going to keep this in mind. And I'm going to try to see the humanity. I'm not saying I'm going to succeed all the time, but I'm sure, I sure will give it a good old try, right? So thanks for listening to me think my way out of some of these problems we experience in life. Yeah, maybe you feel the same way, maybe you don't, but I appreciate you being here, and I do pray for you guys all the time. And until 2 weeks from now, thanks for joining me, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in to Military Broadcast Radio. As we wrap up today's show, we want to remind you that the podcast of today's episode will be available right after we go off the air. So if you missed any part of the show or want to listen again, be sure to check it out. And remember, we're here to support and honor our veterans. Your stories and experiences matter, and we are committed to giving you a platform to share them. That's right. We're here to give our veterans a voice. So don't forget to catch the podcast and stay connected with us. Giving our veterans a voice.